Hello, I'm Padre Kit at RAF Brize Norton, and welcome to Talking to Yourself, a short podcast series looking at resilience and how to grow in it. Today, as we continue through our series, we're thinking about gratitude, and today I'm joined by Steve Curley. This can be a topic which can easily become very cliche, as I have many memories from my childhood of being told to be grateful for what I have, and we really want to avoid those cliches. But Steve, please do tell us, what is your understanding of gratitude, sort of your basic view of it?
Yeah, I think my basic understanding of gratitude is it's a positive emotion.
Yeah.
It's being thankful and appreciative in all situations and circumstances.
Yeah, no, that sounds like gratitude. What for you would be the most important principle of gratitude?
I think for myself, I think the most important principle would be perspective.
But all of us, when you talk about perspective, all of us have that opportunity to take our perspective beyond ourselves into our wider circumstances, our wider family, friends, work environment, much more beyond ourselves, even just across the world, to have our perspective cast there. But coming back sort of just to here at Brize, where we are, what do you think is often underappreciated here at Brize? What do people not find gratitude where they could?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, that. I was formerly in the Royal Engineers as a senior NCO, and I remember looking back, thinking on this question and looking back at my time as a young soldier, as a junior NCO, senior NCO, and there was plenty of times that I moaned throughout my career about different things, and and we all gripe, and sometimes our gripes are justified. But actually, in hindsight, now I'm on the other side of the fence looking in, I realise actually how good I had it at that time. Don't get me wrong, you can find yourself in situations that are tough, that are difficult, but there are things within this job that you can find the positives in and be appreciative for as well.
So lots of things to be grateful for, just by being in the job that we're in.
Yeah.
And yes, this is not a recruitment podcast. Make that very clear. Applying gratitude to our lives, for me, Steve, it comes down to setting expectations and doing that rightly. And some of this we've touched on in previous podcasts in this series. When you set expectations, for me, I think you've got three options. You can either set your expectations higher than your present circumstances. But the problem with that is it leaves this big gap between your expectations high up and your current circumstances in the middle. And that gap is really just nothing but disappointment and frustration. You could either, second option is to set your expectations at your current circumstances, your current reality as you see it. But that seems, from my experience, to just foster a sense of entitlement, that you're entitled to where you currently are. And as the normal ups and downs of life come, that entitlement mentality will itself lead to either demanding more or to a greater sense of frustration and disappointment when things dip a little bit. But the third option is to peg your expectations lower than your current circumstances. And that creates what I call the gratitude gap, everything between your current circumstances and where you put your expectations lower down. That gap is pure gratitude, just things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, I would. I heard, I can't remember the lady's name now, but she was doing a talk on developing resilience. And she said the number one principle for resilience is to understand that bad things happen, and she listed off this big list of different circumstances. Has anyone been through X, Y, and Z circumstance? And if so, stand up when you hear your circumstance that you've been through. And by the end of it, the whole audience was stood up, and she kind of capped it off with, adversity doesn't discriminate.
Yes.
So everyone is guaranteed to go through tough times. And so rather than asking, why me, we should really be saying, why not me? So having that expectation, so it's almost not lowering your expectations, but expecting, why do I have this entitlement that I should go through life with everything going well, everything going my way? Because actually an entitled attitude is what brings ingratitude. That's when we start to lose focus of gratitude, because we become inward looking, asking, why me?
I think perspective, what you said initially on perspective, really feeds into this as well. Is your perspective fanciful and unrealistic? Are you pegging your expectations too high? I generally like to avoid cliches most of the time when talking, but there is this one that keeps coming back when talking about gratitude, which is the glass half full or half empty cliche. Do you know what? Cliches are horrible, but sometimes they convey such helpful truths.
Yeah.
And you have a glass full of beer, and your options are to either be disappointed that the top half is empty or grateful that the bottom half is full.
Yeah.
And by having that realistic perspective, that honest outlook, you wind up with this nice gratitude gap that is, do you know what? I've still got half a glass left, and that's a good place to be in. The reality is you can't change necessarily how much beer is in the glass. You can't change your circumstances all the time. So you have the two options. You have gratitude or frustration. Do you enjoy that half a glass or just drink it disappointed that it's half empty already? Thank you for joining me today, Steve. To everyone else, give yourself a talking to rather than listening to yourself. After all, feeling gratitude is not your circumstances, but is what you tell yourself about them.